Now, another success story, an unpublicized one. I'd hardly heard anything about it, but it is big. It's the fastest growing segment of American education. It's called online learning, and the biggest provider of it is, of all things, a for-profit company called K-12. It was founded by Ron Packard, who joins us now, along with Rose Fernandez and her daughter Maria, who's taught by one of Ron's schools. So, Ron, I'll start with you. What's online education?
Online education is the newest trend in education, where we take public schools and bring them online. So kids can go to school full-time online in a public school. It's free to the families, and we're able to do that for about the two-thirds the price of what a traditional brick-and-mortar school costs government entities.
And when you say in the school, some of your students are in schools, but most are not.
Most can be anywhere, anytime, any place. The way to think about it is online education is tremendous flexibility. You can do it 24/7, and it can go anywhere with you. So you don't need to be in a specific building. You can do it at home. You can do it on the road.
So it sounds like homeschooling with computers.
No, it's very different. Think of it as public schooling at home.
Why isn't it like homeschool?
Because when you homeschool, you can choose whatever curriculum you want. You don't have a certified teacher. You don't have
parents do the teaching.
Exactly. You don't have to take standardized tests. When you go into a public school online, like our virtual academies, at K-12 virtual academies, you have a certified teacher. You have a curriculum that meets or exceeds the state standards. And you take a proctored exam. It's the same exam that the children in the brick-and-mortar schools get. That way the states can tell these kids are getting a great education.
So, Rose, you did this not just for Maria, but for all your kids.
This is our 8th year, John. We have 5 kids. They've all attended.
Why?
We like it because it can be customized. The work that the student does is determined by their abilities, move as fast as they can, take as much time as you need, and we work in cooperation with excellent teachers, and we love it.
And a lot of your students, they may be well ahead in math, behind in reading. They can learn at their own speed.
Exactly. What happens in a lot of traditional schools is if it takes you a little longer to learn a math lesson and you don't get it, you fall behind every day, pretty soon you're lost for life. In our schools, kids can take that extra 5 minutes and move on when they master a lesson. So it's possible for one child may take 20 minutes while another takes an hour, but they all master what they need to master.
So, Maria, if you could just make it real for people, it's still confusing. You're at your mom's office and you're talking to the computer?
No, the teachers are on the other end of the line, and we do the lessons and we talk to them over the computer. And
you can see the teacher?
Yeah, we can, actually. There is a camera that comes at the beginning of the year when you get all your supplies, all your courses, and you can actually see your teacher.
And some critics would say, well, you don't get to be in school where you get to socialize, be with all the other kids. You'll become a nerd.
Well, actually, virtual schooling has a more flexible schedule, so you can do more. I do acting and I do softball, and I have very many friends. I have a big group of friends who I see actually a lot because I have a more flexible schedule.
And Ron, more about that. People criticize homeschooling. The kids won't socialize.
What you find is these parents want a great education for their kids. So these kids are involved in ballet, Little League. We have field trips that are run continuously, every week in the States that they can visit and meet friends. And we encourage families to get together and study together within the program. We hired university professors to do a study on the socialization, and they found one is the children in the virtual schools are every bit as socialized as their brick-and-mortar counterparts.
And their test scores?
Test scores are great. We know the longer you're in the program, the better you do. So every year you're with us, you can gain more than a year is what our data shows. And when you actually start from kindergarten, it's amazing how well the kids do. They're doing 20 points above state averages across our states. And this is despite the fact that we tend to have a higher percentage of kids in poverty than the average school in the state. So it works. And the reason it works so well, it's an individualized education. You can meter the speed yourself.
And you have more kids in poverty. Kids typically come to you because they're having trouble at their regular brick-and-mortar school. They drop out, they come to you.
Yeah, I always joke I have 70,000 full-time students and 70,000 different reasons, but generally it's because for some reason the brick-and-mortar school down the street isn't working for you. It could be a bad school, a bad teacher, or maybe you just don't fit in that box. Maybe you need that extra 5 minutes every day in math.
One line makes sense to me in that, like, I'm a little ashamed to say that I live in New York City. I paid a fortune for my kids to escape the government system and go to fancy private schools, and they learn wonderfully about literature and all that. But they basically struggled with their math tables. But you, I think we have a clip, use the computer to teach. Use computer games, which are so appealing to kids, to teach things like math.
Absolutely. And the reason I founded K-12 was I wasn't happy with the math my child was getting in a California, very good California public school. And I thought I'd go online and find a math course that was taught what the best schools in the world teach. And I found a lot of sites, but nowhere was this the best math. And so from that came the origin of K-12.
And people tried to kill this off.
Not everybody's happy, John. The unions went after us very hard in Wisconsin. And what we did was go to our capital, find legislators who would fight the battle for us, and we changed teacher statute in our state to protect these schools. Parents value this, and
they
they're
made it
very
legal,
satisfied.
but the politicians the idiot politicians limited the number of students who could do it to 5,000?
Well, that was a concession to the union. The union in Wisconsin is very powerful. The
So now
bosses
people
at
are on the
teacher
waiting
union,
list.
They are on the waiting list. We have to get rid of those kinds of barriers. Parents do due diligence. They look at the schools. They look at what their child needs. And the public education has to be smart enough to have more than one way to teach a child.
Well, we invited the union to argue and explain why these schools should not be allowed. They declined to appear. So thank you, Ron and Rose and Maria. Next, a conservative group that says it knows what should be taught in school, and it's something they say is not taught enough.
Oh.
My next guests are conservatives. We're not supposed to use that when talking about public education, but hey, it's conservatives who are finally promoting reform. So let's hear now from Colin Hanna. He heads a group called Let Freedom Ring. And Janine Turner joins us from Texas. Does she look familiar? She's an actress who was on the TV series Northern Exposure, and now she's formed a group called Constituting America. So, Constituting America, you want the kids, Janine, to learn. I mean, I worry that they're not teaching the kids basic math. You want them to learn more? You want them to read the Constitution. Why?
I do. I want them to read the Constitution and understand the Constitution because they're the future of our country. And if they don't understand, that we're living and breathing it every day, then they won't understand the rights. And then if they don't know the rights, they won't know when they're slowly being usurped from them. So it's pivotal. And we live it every single day. And I don't even think they know. So
yeah,
just
but
very,
the
very
Constitution, important. I have my little pocket edition from the Cato Institute here. It's this archaic language. I don't read it that often. It's confusing.
Well, that's why with our foundation, we decided to reach out to the kids in their culture and their medium.
Well, let's take a couple specifics of what you want the kids to study. If you're going to teach the Constitution, it makes sense to start with the preamble. And Janine, you made that movie that begins with some kids reciting that.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union,
establish justice,
and ensure domestic tranquility,
provide for the common defense,
promote the general welfare,
and secure the blessings of liberty
for ourselves and our posterity,
do ordain and
establish this Constitution
for the United States
of America.
All right, so let's break that down. Janine, some of it's very clear. We, the people, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, but then promote the general welfare. What's that mean?
It says promote the general welfare, and I think that's very important. It doesn't say we're going to provide the general welfare. It says we're going to promote the general welfare. And this is just, when we break down what's happening in our government today and how big it's getting, I think that they set up our government, that the government would be in a box so we could stay out of people's lives, because that is when the human spirit could just thrive and grow and come alive.
Let's skip ahead to a part of the Constitution I particularly like. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited to it, to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. Colin, what do the students understand that to mean?
The idea was that the federal government is to be limited to certain enumerated powers.
What a concept!
Well, but you know what, John? This is the beautiful thing. It's a concept that is finding new currency in the 21st century. People are rediscovering the concept of limited government all over again, and that's why we're so excited at WeReadTheConstitution.com about these national out loud reading parties that we're promoting. There are over 120 of them scheduled around the country now.
That's for this weekend. We'll get to that in a second. But, you know, the schools, there are all kinds of people who say schools should teach other things besides reading and writing. People want Bible in school taught as literature. People want the lyrics and the history of the Star-Spangled Banner taught. They want intelligent design taught in schools, healthier eating habits, character education, relationship skills. Who has time for the Constitution?
Why wouldn't you start with the Constitution and then decide whether or not you could add those other subjects?
Janine?
Well, Colin's true. That's true, Colin. And the thing is, if we don't have the foundation of our country and the basis and thesis of our country, we don't have these other rights. I mean, the Constitution is what gives us those rights to be able to discuss those other things. And if our children and our students don't understand it, it's just so fundamental. It's just the basis. It's the basics.
And
because, you know, ironically, there's this horrible statistic that says that people under the age of 40, the majority of them think socialism's okay. Well, if they think socialism's okay, that's because they don't know what's in the Constitution, and they don't understand what's in the Federalist Papers. And anyone out there that's left-wing or liberal or thinks that the Constitution's irrelevant, I dare them to go this Friday or this Saturday and actually read the Constitution and then check in on our website and really study the Federalist Papers. There's absolutely no way that they can walk away from those two things and think that the Constitution's not relevant today.
And as you point out, it's not just the kids, it's adults too. And explain what you're doing this weekend.
Well,
me?
what we're
okay.
doing...
I don't call it right.
Well, go ahead.
Well, we have two
I
things
was
going.
looking at you.
Let's
your turn.
Okay, no. Well,
okay. WeReadTheConstitution.com is trying to promote out loud public readings of the Constitution. They can be in a public setting like a town square or even in a backyard barbecue. And the website is where people can register that they're having one of these so others can find their way there. About 120 of them scheduled at this point. And the idea is simply to
all over the country.
All over the country. And the idea is simply get together as a group and read the Constitution. Break it up into sections, have different people read different sections, and read it out loud. You can do the whole thing in less than an hour. And it is a profoundly moving experience for people at all ages to go through the document from start to finish. And then we provide a certificate that if you have read it in a single session from start to finish, you can get a certificate which identifies you as a constitutional patriot.
Well,
and
thank
I might
you.
add on Friday.
Thank you, Colin Hanna and Janine Turner. When we return, a woman who's taken flack for trying to reform what's been the worst public school system in America. She's been called the Terminator, the Hammer, the Dragon Lady. And I think now she's about to be fired. We'll meet her when we return.